This video is brought to you by Huel and Liquid IV. More on them in just a bit.
Oh my God, how do we not mention it? Holy crap, put it at the beginning, Multicon. There's an event. We're gonna have to put this at the beginning.
Where you can meet us and talk about the hits.
The real rejects are gonna be there. Greg, me, hosting. I'm looking at all the cameras. Greg's hosting a panel. I don't know which one it is. And then Koi's hosting a panel, and the real rejects are gonna have a panel now.
Oh.
And there's also gonna be a whole bunch of people way more popular than us, like the likes of Kevin Smith.
Yes,
David Corenswet, Straw Hat Goofy.
True.
Juju. There's gonna be a lot of people there. All of the everything, this entire thing is a big fundraiser to go towards victims of the wildfires here in LA. It's a cause that we are so happy to be a part of because 100% of proceeds are going to be going to them. And on top of that, we get to connect with people and entertain as a way to be able to do something really good that we actually really give a shit about.
Yeah, I'm really excited to meet people for a great cause.
Yeah, so it's February 22nd.
Yep.
Here at the Preserve in LA. There's a link in the description box and pinned comment. And then now we'll just throw you into the podcast.
Yeah, good luck. It's chaotic.
Before filming, I won't go into the conversation, but it was a whole process of like, why am I taking, because I was taking it personal, and then I'm like, I'm processing hurt, but I'm like, no one's attacking me. Need to stop taking things so personal. It's my anxiety. Anyway, this gets me to think. I'm almost done with the show.
What show?
And I think you've seen it. I'm almost done with season 2. It's called Shrinking.
Oh, I love that show.
Oh my God,
dude.
what a show.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you discovered it.
I don't know what, I mean, I love Harrison Ford, and I wanted to watch it. And it seems like the first time Harrison Ford has given a shit in a very long time.
It's also the most himself I feel like he's been, because in his interviews when he's not putting a wall up, it's that character.
It's like a deconstruction of himself.
Yeah.
Is like what I'm watching there.
It's
And
beautiful.
I think it's Jason Segal's best performance he's ever done, hands down. And as someone who started going to therapy, I believe in 2012 is when I started going to therapy. 2012, 2011. I haven't been in the last month and a half due to reasons. However, the concept alone of a therapist who takes things into their own hands, crossing the line, I love it for a multitude of reasons. Like, okay, my wife Olivia, she could call me on this shit. She's like, you always introduce me as my wife Olivia. It's like, I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, I'm just your wife to people's identity. And then I talked about this with the person who cuts my hair, because she's engaged. And I brought that up. She's like, "Oh, she's 100% right." Like,
so does she want Olivia, my wife?
Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then apparently this is a thought. I never even considered it. Anyway, Olivia, my wife, like she came in and saw a scene from season 2. First bit of footage she's ever seen. She's like, "Oh my God, what is this? There's no way I could tolerate this show," because she has such a big psychology background.
Sure.
And it's just so unethical, right? But so much of my relationship with therapy, after being in it for so long, when I felt like not many people were going, now it's like the norm and the cool thing to do, especially in LA.
In our circles. It's still not the norm, I think, in 48 states.
In 48 states, yes. But I think I noticed a lot of people in New York go, but in California, online, there's a lot about going to therapy. And I think there's a big, different type of weird part of therapy movement that I am not a fan of.
Okay.
And that is, we will talk about Superman. But
is this the start of the show?
I guess we're doing it. Yeah. So the part about it is, I feel like there's this weird, almost like proud to have problems, narcissism version of therapy that I am now seeing. Like, oh, they often go, here's what my therapist is saying, here's what my therapist is doing, but not in a way that feels like they're taking action in their own lives. It feels like there's a trap that, and I've heard a talk about this very recent from some neuroscientist, right? Not that this is like the end all be all for everything about therapy. Again, these are just my own random thoughts that I've been having. Because like, especially having a month and a half off from therapy, not by choice, but by stuff that happened, I've learned so much more about myself, and I've been way more honest with myself and other people, because it's kind of like when you take a rest day from the gym and your muscles grow.
You need to, I think, balance it. I think that I don't think therapy is bad or good, but if it's a crutch, anything's bad.
It can be, that's the thing, is a lot of people don't realize the crutch that it becomes. So when you're looking at his clients who are there, a lot of them seem like Jason, if people haven't seen the show, Jason Segal plays a therapist who takes action to his own hands, and he goes too far, like he's literally going out and taking them into public stuff you're not supposed to do in therapy.
Yeah.
Stuff that I'm watching, I'm like, I don't think you should do this. But the idea of it I like, because therapy for a lot of people can become a place just to keep revalidating your problems, and you kind of just and sometimes you just go there and you just end up magnifying and reaffirming it versus actually working towards something and progressing and doing action outside of therapy to grow. So the idea of like these patients are actually experiencing benefits because they're finally taking real action outside of that 1 hour they're there speaks massive volumes to me. I was in therapy for many years without really doing anything. And I was that, you know, and I think that's why it bothers me so much. Actually, now that I think about it, it was because in the first few years when I was in therapy, it was like all about like, I felt like married and identified by my problems and all this like PTSD shit that I had. And now when I watch that show, I'm reminded of like, oh yeah, the value in taking action and how therapy can often become something where you just show up and all you do is sort of revalidate yourself, and it becomes a venting session and not really a way to progress and grow.
So I'm going to push back slightly.
Please.
Only because
this is my first time ever talking about it, so I'd like to
I'd like
to unpack it.
I would push back only in that I think anything can be that, and therapy is a net positive if used well, but anything used incorrectly is wrong. And I think specifically of like the spiritual movement and hippies. I have seen people go from being like good burners to bad burners in a hurry. Like if you do anything too woo woo, you devolve into like total madness. If you do anything too anything becoming a crutch is a negative. Even you can go to the gym too much. Like you can become addicted to anything that your brain thinks is helping. So I don't think therapy is the problem.
No.
And I'm not saying you are.
No.
And I'm not saying you're positing that. I'm saying that the show allows an 11 of reality like any show, but I think it normalizes therapy by being absurdist in a way that is so important.
That's what I also love, because it also happens to be a show that is talking about why therapy done properly
is important. While saying
fantastic.
this isn't proper.
Yes,
Harrison Ford is going like, don't do that. And then there are times that Harrison Ford goes like, well, I jimmied, and he breaks his own like code. But I still think that you need to have the X-Men. You had to have all the black leather suits to get to the fully colored yellow suit in Wolverine. You need to have the absurdist therapy show in order to normalize it for people that aren't comfortable with it.
1,000%.
So I think that you can have something become a crutch, but I still think the positive of the show outweighs the negative by a million times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you say the positive show, you mean the positive of therapy?
Of therapy and the show.
Yes.
The show itself being a brand for therapy is, I think, a really good thing.
I actually think so, too. It makes therapy look like kind of fun.
Yeah. And it also makes mental health look like something that's as important as physical health, which is not the way most Americans see it.
And I like the show demonstrating that therapists are people.
Yeah.
And ideally, the concept in therapy is the therapist isn't supposed to involve you in their personal life.
Right.
Which is like the antithesis of the show, right? Because it's like radical therapy is what they're doing. But I like how mistakes happen along the way. And I do think it does serve the bigger point of showcasing that, therapy done right can be beneficial. And then there's more ways to develop yourself beyond that's the other thing too. A lot of people think just walking into the session is enough.
Right. And that's what the work is the work. You don't go to the gym and sit on the bench.
And that's what I love about the experimentation of the show is that sometimes it does show like, hey, sometimes these experiments do pay off. Yeah. Because there's so much more you do beyond just sitting down and reaffirming the same shit you've been reaffirming. Like, I'm talking about people who've like been going for a long time and nothing's changed. I'm not talking about the first like if it's your first year or something like that. I absolutely believe in therapy. I love therapy. I'm talking more to the people who've been there for a very long time and not much has really changed. And then you see this other development. It's like, you know, if you have and sometimes not the therapist. It's like if you have a personal fitness coach and you're not getting any results, you probably get it.
You can plateau with one style, and you'll need to change into another form. So I agree with that assessment of it. But I think the show is fantastic, and I think that like it is such a great gateway for people.
Absolutely. And the other part about that, it was really getting me aware of stupid Apple Watch. I hate this thing. So the thing it was getting me aware of,
not an Apple ad,
is no, definitely not. Is that when it comes to friendships? And I was talking with you about this a little bit beforehand, and the importance of friendships. I like how as the show evolved, it becomes more, it's like, oh, it's the ensemble is a group of friends. Yeah. You know, like any great TV show.
And neighbors. I love the neighborly aspect of it.
Yes, 1,000%. And I've had some like recent life things happen to me that have really caused me to have like a reevaluate. That's what I mean. The show's got me to like reflect a lot. So in a weird way, it's like a therapeutic show for a show about therapy, right?
I think it's very effective.
My paranoia is kicking in that I'm sounding like I'm anti-therapy when I'm the furthest thing from it. I've been one of the I've been in therapy, like John and I have probably been in therapy longer than most people who've been at the channel, but it's I'm not fucking justifying this shit. All right. That was my opinion. So, all right.
There's your stance.
God damn it. Move on.
We like shrinking.
Yeah. We like shrinking. And, okay, here's the part. You know what? It just popped in my head why I was like, the part about that I don't like in LA culture specifically is there seems to be this judgment now that, because it seems like such a norm to go to therapy, that I've noticed, at least this is the feeling I get. I don't want to say it like an absolute. It's a feeling I get that there seems to be kind of a judgment towards people who are not going to therapy. Or they're like, oh, this person needs therapy. Like when you're around people who are in therapy and then they're like that one person who's never gone or doesn't want to give it a shot, they feel like it's a must that you need to go.
I think you discovered New York this year, Greg.
Yeah.
I think you realized that LA, I love LA, but when you see what other cities do sustainably, you realize that nowhere is perfect. And I think you've only had exposure to LA, so now you're seeing all the flaws because you've had
really like
but like you didn't have anything to compare it to. So now everything is a little bit more highlighted. Yeah. So like I think LA is obviously very narcissistic and very judgmental, and I think that is exhausting when you can compare it to other things.
Well, see what we're talking about. I know I'm just randomly talking about therapy. What I'm talking about right now is it's the first time I'm having this conversation. I'm learning in this moment with you, you know?
About what?
Of everything I'm saying. Like, this is the first time I'm like confronting these thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
That just kind of happened to myself when I'm watching Shrinking, but I'm not like dissecting it.
Sure.
I'm not unpacking where it's coming from or where my bias is from it. And I think that way to realize like, oh, I am a person who wants to progress and grow and hear someone else's opinion and go, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe I didn't consider that. I don't want to be someone who comes on camera and is like, I know everything, and here I'm going to speak in like I am the expert. I am the person of knowledge.
I think that was the.
But I'm saying therapy taught me to be that way.
I agree, but I also think that was the thesis when you called me about doing a show where it was long form and you and I talking, and movie news was like the undercurrent and the top was long form conversation.
Yes,
that was the draw to me because it involved like a dialogue versus a pair of monologues. So I think anytime there's a dialogue, I'm more interested in that subject matter, whether it's about art, whether it's about government, whether it's about like, I think dialogue is the only thing that interests me in anything going forward. I think that's why I do interviews like I do. I think that's why I got rid of a lot of friends. I think that's why I like don't really have a lot of patience for most people on the internet, because not everyone, a lot of people just monologue at each other, and that doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
So the idea of receiving data and then giving the filter of your life experience and bringing it back is what I want to do with movie news, which is what we discussed here. Yeah. But I think that is a very cousin of therapy approach. Like it needs to be externalized and then you can process it, which is the whole point of shrinking.
I totally agree with you. I think dialogue is the most important aspect. And dialogue is where you actually learn something, because you don't realize a lot of the time, as I was saying stuff that I was like, you know what's wrong with the world about therapy? And then as I was talking, I was like, oh, wait, there's actual biases that I have, and now I know why they're there. And that was affecting my opinion and my aggression.
It's a mirror.
Exactly.
Like you need that mirror to see it.
But unless people are willing to be honest and have the talk,
right,
they might not even get to that point.
You won't see the mustard on your lip till you look, man.
Right.
Like, so you have to get the thoughts out of your head so you can see the mustard.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't really know I don't know if there's any truth to what I said. I'm like, this is just what I really feel when I'm around like therapy culture right now.
I agree, it is self-serving at times, and I think that LA everything in LA is kind of a mirror and a magnifying glass. Like everything gets bigger, so I think you're feeling a different hostility towards it because of the type of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, LA is like literally just not on fire right now. It's like everything feels a little tense. Everything's a little on edge.
And I'm saying not go to therapy during this time.
Now's not the time. You lost your home? Talk about it.
Don't go.
But that's the thing is I think that there's an edginess to the year and to the world we're in right now that's a lot. And I think that is subconsciously affecting all of us. Like I've never been this bone tired, I think, in my whole life. And it's not something I've fixed with sleep. It's not something I can fix with diet. I've tried. It's not something I've fixed with. The world's a lot. But dialogue solves some of that too.
It does. It gets you on a path at least.
Yeah.
Because I think a big part of the therapy talk is so much people reserve that only for their therapist. And that's your choice. So if you only, like there's some stuff I'm like, I'm only going to say this in therapy. Like, don't worry, I am that person too. But if you're able to take that out into the real world and have these vulnerable conversations, like this is a version of vulnerability. but we have a camera pointed at us.
I think I was fairly vulnerable in that interview we did, which led to this conversation to do this show. And I think that the moments, and we've talked about this, the moments that connected with people that like people shared and stuff were the vulnerable moments, which is way more interesting than me. Then I will always be happy to share like what panel of Spider-Man means a lot to me, but it's also nice to share the emotional impact of Spider-Man.
Yeah, and unpacking the emotional side, at least it's all going to come from our point of views, right? Mm-hmm. I want to know. I was going to talk about friendship, but we should talk about the actual thing that people showed up here for.
Maybe.
Shrinking's show. It qualifies as entertainment industry.
It did well. People like it.
Yeah, because this conversation, I'm like, oh, we could land at a completely different. I could land at a completely different character arc by like an hour point of talking just about this. I'm like, oh yeah, I have a completely different point.
We just did the most marketing for an Apple Plus show than they've ever done.
That's the weird part about camera being online culture, right? Like there used to be a time where when you hit when you're on camera, you're like a reporter or something, so you have to be the expert who knows everything. And now we're in this like weird world where people record themselves all the time, and they're sharing the part of progress that they're at. Where I'm like, this thought they're having right now might be a completely different thought.
And I hope we make it clear when we're experts and when we're not. Like I really, that valuable to me is like how much our opinion has weight, because that's the problem I have with movie news shows.
Yes.
And that's what we are going to be a good movie news show against all odds. Like I have a problem with 95% of movie news shows because it is not an expert talking about anything that's fact. It's someone talking about a rumor and kind of making it clear it's a rumor. And that isn't exciting to me. I think if you go, this is a rumor, let's discuss the possibilities, but even that's not as common.
What do you think about, I get a little, I have to clear the air on this a little bit. So you work at DC Studios. Mm-hmm. I do want to ask you about the Superman image. Normally I don't give a shit about that stuff. I saw the TV spot on my phone and I was like, that looks weird. And then I thought about it a little bit more. I'm like, oh, I guess I do have some thoughts.
So do you want my thoughts or do you want to hear yours first?
I do want to hear your thoughts, but how do you feel as someone who now works at DC talking about DC? I'm not saying I have no idea what your opinion is. I haven't talked to you about it for 1 second. But when something comes up, do you feel like you have to lean positive all the time? Like, what's your honest thought on that?
I don't feel like pressure? I have to lean any more positive at DC than I do Marvel or Dark Horse or Boom or I don't feel it's a not independent contract. Like, I mean, it is an independent contract. It's not exclusive. There's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
I can talk about anything, and like I lean so positive anyway that it's funny that now people have called me a shill forever, but now they have like a thing to circle and go, nah. But like I've always been positive because I think being negative is pointless. I have things I don't like, as that one clip that went viral. You know, I've expressed my thoughts of like, I can see something as negative but still point out the positives, but I don't understand. Let's use that clip as an example. I don't understand looking at a 5-second clip and judging a 2-hour movie on it, one. I also don't understand looking at something that's intentionally shot in scope to feel impactful and judging a thing on your phone, two. I also don't understand the need to take something that's inherently fantastical and try to drag it through the mud when the whole point of Superman is joy, 3. And 4, I don't understand why there are people that are seeking negativity about a property that is inherently about bringing good to people because of a prerequisite of another character that they're like. There are people that are attached to prior interpretations of this character that are looking for negativity, that it could be the best shot in the world and it wouldn't matter. It could be the worst shot in the world and it wouldn't matter. They're going to say the same thing. So the fact that it's shot in a wide lens to feel the scope of something and 90% of people are looking at it on their 5-inch screen phone, it's going to look different because it's like, do you want to watch an IMAX movie on your Apple Watch? Probably not the move. Like, that is such an inherent weird judgment. And also to have a 5-second clip, I wouldn't have personally, and this will be the closest to a negative, I wouldn't have personally showed the front of him flying in something that wasn't in a full-on trailer, because now I've seen it and I was like kind of hoping to have that as a big moment. So the only negative I have is like, I would have liked to have saved that for the big screen because I prefer it theatrical. I would have been cool to see, because we saw him from the back in all the trailer footage. It would have been cool to see that like barrel roll Top Gun moment in a big screen.
Sure, yeah.
But like, to me, it doesn't look bad. It just is not the format I would have preferred. But it is an odd thing that we're so aggressively seeking negativity that even something cool, to me, is already at a deficit before it's even shown. People are just like, how do we attack it?
What was your first reaction when you did see the eyes?
On David Corenswet's eyes?
Yeah.
I thought that it was warped because of the lens, and it was an odd choice to put that as the first image of him. But then when I saw it, because I saw the still before I saw the video. because I literally just
Me too.
saw.
I thought it was AI. I thought it was an AI Photoshop.
Well, because like the lens is so big, like it's an actual, like you can see in Severance when they change lenses when he's going down the elevator, it warps his face in order to show the difference in reality of the two worlds of the show. They literally are using lenses like that for that shot, so it's inherently. But I thought it was odd I saw an image, and then when I saw it in motion, I liked it. But as an image, I was just disoriented because I was like, what is this out of context?
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a thought because I was like, give me more data. And then when I saw it, I was like, cool, Top Gun. Like, and to me, the music is more Top Gun than even directly John Williams, because it's that I've been thinking a lot about what American exceptionalism is to me. And the last time I felt like rah America was 80s. And like, I think that in the 80s, the last time we felt it was the 50s. And so it's interesting. We always have this 30 to 40, not always, but the last two generations of was like 30 or 40 years ago. So it's like this inherent nostalgia for a specific time in the past. And now that I'm an adult, I think of the 80s as being a beautiful time for like American culture. And that to me is Top Gun. So it's interesting that a character that is so tied to Americana and lore, that now that he's modernized, he's not going back to 50s Americana. He's going to 80s Americana. And we just had a sequel to 80s Americana in Top Gun. And now he's flying like that. So it's interesting the cultural impact of tying a character to different Americana mythology. Because he's an American myth. He's American folklore more than he's anything else. So to me, that shot represents Top Gun, which represents American exceptionalism, which is at times propaganda and at times true.
Wow.
Is what I think of that 5 seconds.
It's a beautiful assessment. Most patriotic assessment I could have ever imagined.
I mean, you asked about 5 seconds. These are my thoughts.
But I know that's the way you actually think.
And that's why, like, I don't have time to think of fake shit because I work at a place.
Like, a lot of people will chalk up I know that's the way you really think about stuff. Whereas a lot of people
so
be like,
loud.
Koi's so grandiose. Koi's just such an overhype, oversell guy. I'm like, I know him pretty well off camera. This is how this guy weirdly thinks.
Can I explain that? This feels like the right place to do that.
Sure, absolutely.
The reason I am so big about the world is because of how negative the real world can be. And I don't see any reason to not see movies as magic and comics as magic and books as like there is actually no reason to not enjoy the fiction that thousands of artists have given us. There is not a single reason to not look at a man flying and be excited. There is not a single reason not to go, what an amazing feeling this gives me. And even if it doesn't, there's no reason to yell that it doesn't. But if it does, there's no reason to make it the biggest thing you feel, because all it's going to do is lift your frequency, your vibration, your joy. All it's going to do, whatever woo-woo or normalized term you want to use, all it's going to do is make your day better. So why not see the world as bright as possible? If the real world is as dark as it is, why not look to the silver lining? Why not appreciate that no one had to give us any of this? And you can be cynical and be like, it's business and people are making money, but you could also say that about literally everything that is also negative. If you want to look at the things that are profiting people, you could dive into the insane cesspool that is politics and government and the established systems. Or you could go, wow, these things that we're celebrating the art and mythology and joy and livelihood of people making things to go to the masses. I never understand why you would choose to look down when you can look up. And that's why I love Superman. Like, that's the point of the character. And whenever people get mad at me for being grandiose, I first get mad because I feel like I have to defend myself. And then I feel sad for them because they don't get to be happy. Like they, to the scale that I do. And I'm not always happy. You know me. Like, I have a lot that I'm not happy about. But that's a way that I can balance the things I'm not happy about. Like, it's a buoy system.
Well, you said something in there that is the reason I wanted to understand why people were so upset about this image. I got kind of obsessed with like thinking about what is it about this? Why are we fixating on the eyes? Because I saw it and I did think it looked weird. And my mind was like, I'm sure in the context of the movie or when I'm watching it, I'm not going to be that bothered by it. You know, every Superman movie, there's going to be a visual effect moment that's like, that's definitely not real. Like every Superman, I can't think of even the wonderful Zack Snyder, even in his visuals, you're like, that's definitely not real sometimes. Sometimes you just have that thought. But why the face, right? And it hit me when I saw the collage. It was actually a positive post, but people were really fixated on it, where you saw the collage of all the Superman poses, all the actors, Tom Welling included, Brandon Routh, and then David Corenswet. And then David, even when I was looking, I was like, he does look the fakest out of them all. Every one of them, the close-up, even that, the Henry Cavill moment in Man of Steel when he's first flying, it's one of the posters, right? it looks real, and that was the time where it looked fake. Now, I don't think most people do the whole thing. Even I didn't even jump to the conclusion it's a lens problem. I thought it was a CGI weird eye problem because that's what it looks like when we've seen other weird CGI things. So naturally, the mind will go to, that's a weird CGI problem because we've seen weird CGI problems look like that before, right?
Sure, it's the easiest leap.
Yeah, it is the easiest leap, and it's an understandable leap, though, that I think people make. Because even in some of the, I noticed James Gunn replied to people who were not being dicks about it. They were like, this looks great. I think the eyes are a little bit off, but then he would explain to them, not the people attacking. I want to talk about James Gunn a little bit too. Don't let me forget that. But you said the word magic.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, this might be the subconscious reason why people are so mad. I mean, beyond all the other factors of there are people like, I agree, that already want to go in to hate the goddamn thing just because they want to hate it. And that's the way the world operates. I think the word with magic was when I see those other images of Superman flying in those stills, it looks like I believe a man can fly. But once I see a CGI eye face problem, I don't believe the magic anymore. And I think that's what people are at a deeper level are probably zeroing in on, of they're not being so, because everything about that clip is cool, right? He's flying, the freaking barrel roll. Yeah. It's an awesome ass shot. But once you see the eyes, you're like, that looks freaking odd, you know? And I started to get, I don't agree that you have to be an aggressive, vitriolic asshole about the thing. But I am hoping that with James Gunn, with what he's doing, this guy's been up against the goddamn wall since the beginning of this shit, right? He's been up against the wall. People want him to fail. Yeah. They want this to tank. And there is a part of entertainment news there are channels out there, entertainment outlets, that you'd be a goddamn fool to believe that there's not a reality where they want shit to fail so they can milk some videos out of it.
Yeah. They're going to make way more money the worse things are optically received. And whether it's true or not, they want the optics to be bad.
And they lie to their audience. 100%. A lot of the times they lie and say that, no, we just want a good movie. We just don't want some woke bullshit or whatever the hell they say, right? You know? Yeah. They say that. When I'm like, your whole channel's based off of milk and drama and shit. I think you want the drama. Like,
it's so much more profitable.
If actions speak louder than words, I'm looking at your actions right now. It's very evident this is what you're doing. So they want this shit to fail. So I'm looking more from the perspective of me, where I'm going, I want this to succeed, but I can also acknowledge I thought it looked like a weird ass shot when I saw that damn thing. And I wanted to know why people were upset. And I hope that James Gunn doesn't get pushed into an area, because you can kind of see it sometimes, right? Or he's just, I mean, maybe this is something where maybe you maybe not ought to speak on it, but I can see you sometimes getting pushed in an arena of going like, man, these fucking people, like he has to fight back, right?
I think
I don't want him to. I don't want. I want him to finish it off. I just don't want him to. I think there is a reality where you can't acknowledge that maybe on a big screen it won't look weird, but it might actually look weird to most people. So maybe adjusting it, if it does look weird in the theaters, will be okay.
Two things.
Sure.
First, I want to address the weird, and then I want to address the gun. I think the weird is he shot a movie not for TikTok, finally. This movie is shot to look huge. It's not shot in the center of a frame, so you can put a little caption over it and you can talk with your floating head, and I'm appreciative. But I remember watching the trailer, and we were front row, and that screen was enormous. But even when I watched it a second time at home, it is morphed because of the scope that he chose to do. To me, that feels more like a comic artist decision. Like Frank Quitely art, All-Star Superman, is everything is big and oversized and like Technicolor. It's like watching Wizard of Oz. Those colors aren't how the colors were. Everything is pumped up. To me, this is the visual language of doing that. It's pumping up and adding frames that are slightly distorting and making things bigger. So I think the first couple minutes of watching Superman, love it or hate it, is going to be adjusting to the choices made. And I would so much rather James Gunn keep making choices than making milquetoast middle frame decisions that are good for the media to digest and properly go like, looks good, looks normal. I like look at the
But we're talking about a human being's eyes though.
But I think that is a frame taken out of context that will, like you said, in the movie play. And again, I feel like I'm now in the position of having to defend because of people thinking my association with DC Studios. But if it wasn't DC and if it wasn't Gunn, a director I really admire, I would still say perhaps the movie. Because it's going to be a couple seconds in a thing where we're already adjusted to the visual style and aesthetic. If you go frame by frame and pause a movie, I remember The Matrix. I remember thinking The Matrix was perfect as a kid. And I still think philosophically and all the wonderful things. But I remember thinking, because I was like 11, that there wasn't a single flaw. Like I remember it was actually really hard on me when I discovered IMDb goofs. And I discovered IMDb goofs, the category, via The Matrix. Because I was trying to learn everything I could about The Matrix because it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And from 11 to 14, it was like as close to religion. And we've talked about this. And that's why I want to use this as an example. I remember it breaking my heart when I realized you could see a camera in a lens of a reflection as they reach towards a doorknob. And I remember it breaking my heart because they used like the tie creatively. And I remember it breaking my heart when there's a scene where they hand Neo a phone and the guy leaves, and you can see a hand strumming in the widescreen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they cut it out in all the digital re-releases. But in the theatrical cut, you can see someone's hand just in the cubicle. And I remember, like, it was hard for me to go, okay, that's not perfect. And I think that the culture we live in now, where we freeze frame and we pause, and again, this is why I would have preferred not to see that spin in an out of context trailer, is if we're pausing everything and we're looking to scrutinize, where is the magic if I wanted to have The Matrix perfect, and then I looked for the flaws, and then it wasn't. If we're doing that before the movie even has a chance to say what it is, how are we ever going to enjoy anything?
That's true. I mean, first of all, in The Matrix, there's this one shot in the movie where I noticed when I was younger, and maybe my brother pointed it out to me, when Neo is like, he's about to die at the train track, and he's like, my name is Neo. When he flips backwards, you could see the string. He's clearly
the wire.
You can wire. You clearly see he's holding the wire too. Like his hands are like intentionally grabbing a wire.
And imagine if that was a trailer shot, and it was in today's culture, and you paused on that trailer shot of holding it, and then the entire internet's like, this movie's gonna suck. And then you had 6 months of people thinking of that instead of experiencing The Matrix.
Well, isn't there the one element though of like, but that is the world today. That is the game today. That
I
the movie
think
studios have to play.
Doing this show is trying to counter that, and we can't change it. But if we can get a drop in the bucket of positivity, or if we can get people to realize, like,
to not let it affect you wanting to see it, like it doesn't affect me.
Thousands of people. How many thousands of people are responsible for creating that moment?
Yeah.
And people are like, I don't know. So that's the shot. The gun of it all. I love that he's hiring directors that are going to make bold choices like Craig Gillespie and Supergirl. I love that he's hiring people like James Mangold for Swamp Thing. Like all the choices are creative. Like, I don't want everything to look like one thing. So I love that Gunn himself is going, I'm starting this universe. I'm hiring all these guys to do why not be bold and make something have that scope? Why not have it be slightly embiggened and bold? So like, to me, when I saw that shot, and again, this is me thinking like a comic person, not a movie person, it felt like an artist's choice, and I didn't mind it. But I hate that we're already in a position, and we're not defending it, but of being on defense about it.
Reject Nation, it's a new year and we want to start strong, right? And for me, that means finding simple ways to stay on track, especially when it comes to eating well. And that's why I've been loving, this is my own order, not one sent to me, Huel, Huel, that's on screen, right? I trust them a lot. A few months ago, before partnering with them, I actually asked them to send me a few bottles. That way I could make sure I like it before I talk about it. And yeah, I ended up loving it. And now I am a regular customer. I think I've spent more than they've paid me. Right now I'm down to my last bottle because Koi Jandro, you keep stealing my bottles. Anyway, here's why Huel's Black Edition Ready to Drink works for me. It's a complete meal in a bottle, packed with over 30 grams of protein and 27 essential vitamins and minerals. So you're not just filling up, you're fueling up. Perfect for busy mornings or when I don't feel like cooking or if I'm in a rush, which is my life. Just grab it, drink it, and you're good to go. And the taste, this is so important. Unlike a lot of other shakes, I know you've tried some. Huel actually tastes great. And my favorite is personally the chocolate Koi. I can't believe you took my last one. The chocolate, it's smooth, rich, and low in sugar. I'm really particular about that too. So if you've been looking for a way to make eating healthier yet easier this year, Huel it is. It's Huel. It's affordable too, less than $5 a bottle. Here's what you can do. You can go to Huel.com and use code REJECTS for 15% off your first order, plus a free gift. That's Huel.com, code REJECTS. Supporting them does support the channel, but also supports your sexy bod. So start your year off strong with Huel. It's quick, it's nutritious, and it actually tastes great. You'll want it in your routine. Jandro. Friends, you ever finish a workout, feel amazing for a bit, and then suddenly hit that wall? Or maybe you're just dragging throughout the day no matter how much water you drink? That's where today's sponsor comes in. A sponsor whose product I buy on the reg, and that is Liquid IV. I'm always excited to partner up with a brand
whose product I already use. What's great about Liquid IV is that their stuff isn't just about hydration, it's about feeling better all around. Physically, it helps replenish electrolytes faster than water alone, so that way you recover quicker. That's very important, even if you exercise just a few times a week. Mentally, it helps you stay sharp and focused instead of sluggish. And emotionally, feeling good starts with taking care of yourself, your temple, whatever you want to call this machinery that we use every day. And staying hydrated is a simple way to do that. Because I used to try the gallon of water a day thing, and sometimes you just can't hit that whole gallon and then film with a big bloated belly. Anyway, here's why it works. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Thanks to their LIV Hydroscience formula, it's got 3 times the electrolytes of sports drinks, packed with essential vitamins like B12, vitamin C, so it's not just hydration, it's energy and recovery in one. And the flavors, especially their sugar-free raspberry lemonade, my favorite. It's refreshing, 0 sugar, and feels like a treat. Whenever I take Liquid IV after a workout, I feel like it has made a big difference, especially during busy days. So if you want to feel better and hydrate smarter, healthier, go to liquidiv.com and use code REJECTS to get 20% off your first order. Once again, that's liquidiv.com. Use code REJECTS to get 20% off your first order. Great way to support the channel is go check them out. But more importantly, it's supporting your health. Give it a try. I feel a difference, and I hope you will too.
Yeah. I mean, my point.
January.
My point with James Gunn was that I get concerned when an artist might feel they're gonna do something in terms of like reacting to people's vitriol.
I think we're pretty safe with him more than most because he is so engaged with people and he is so like, I mean,
They've been going at him forever, man.
I feel like he's
I feel so sorry for James Gunn.
but I think that's kind of given him a sturdiness. Like I spent about 10 years hating Twitter and now I still do, but I'm way more apathetic towards the faceless minions that choose to be faceless minions are irrelevant to me. And I can't imagine how much more he's apathetic because he cares about humanity. But if people are attacking you, you don't really go like,
You know, it really does suck. I mean, what you said really spoke a lot of volumes to me about being able to pause a frame, because when I'm imagining like, wow, what if it was like, I remember watching the Matrix Reloaded trailer in the theaters, right? It was, beautiful, miracle. It's here. And I'm like, if I saw that trailer in the 2000s before TikTok and all that, before YouTube, and I saw the Superman trailer in the theaters, I'm like, would I have even noticed that? Or would I have been like, wow, that looks so cool. The magic that you're talking about.
And we're losing that every time we do this shit.
And I feel like that is where we're at with movies in general. Like, I want to talk about that Tarantino thing. I think it's actually, in terms of doing a show, I think it's actually a good segue to that. What did you look at what he said?
I read the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I want to find like the main quote of what he, actually, I think I got it on my phone.
He had a few very interesting points that I really enjoyed.
I thought the main thing that he said, I took a screenshot of it because it did get I just want to talk about things that like people pointed out that would be fun to get our juices flowing here.
Yeah.
Where is it? This is good. Stall for time.
I will say one final thought on the Superman thing while you're
Please.
looking. I think that losing the magic is what is affecting us, not just in movies, but in life. And I think that it's actually a cumulative problem. I think on air, but maybe it was in private. I think we've passed the point where it's land to grab, right? We've passed the point where there's anything more to conquer. And I think the human mind is always trying to conquer and take land and claim and have ownership. And I think that especially when you combine that human instinct with capitalism, you get to a point where it's profiting and ownership. And then I think the human mind is the thing we're attacking now. But we've already made it through TV and video games. And we've now got to the point where social media is such an addiction that there are moments when we're not on it, we feel like the twitch of needing it, like heroin. And what scares me is now we're inserting ads in between. It used to be like a 30-minute show would have ads and we'd complain about it. But then we got rid of ads and now you're the product. So they can put you in like TikTok and every 15 seconds you can get an ad. And like, we're getting to the point where it's like so common that we're just seeing buy, that it scares me that the amount of stimuli we're getting will never be able to sustain the good chemicals that used to come from it, like dopamine, endorphins, like everything that is positive. When you add that depletion and all the anxiety that's happening in people in depression because we're so overstimulated, and then you take away magic. So that's one problem. And then you add scrutiny and negativity about shit that should be joy. Because I don't even speak on politics anymore because of how much I just don't believe in any established systems. That's real and already happening, and that is real negativity. When you take away the positivity of the magic of movie making and comics and art, and you're overstimulated and all your chemicals are gone, we as a society, as a culture, and as a species won't survive. We need shit. So I'm terrified on a global species scale that we're breaking, and it's only going to get worse. And I don't want to bring kids into a world where you judge magic.
It's so funny how our thoughts are aligned, because the thought, I was having similar thoughts. I just didn't have the word magic in there as the adjective. But everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, this is a big thought process that I was having before we met up today, when I was kind of going over like what we might talk about. To go over what the main quote that Variety puts out to get the clicks and stuff is Tarantino saying, where was he doing this interview? Just for Variety?
He literally flew in, and dude, there's such a sassy line in that about Deadline. Did you read it?
No, I didn't.
So Variety has the article, but then there's literally a thing where it's like, and a bunch of other journalists are there, including Deadline, who claimed this as an exclusive, and then they wrote a definition of exclusive here and put a hyperlink to the definition of exclusive.
fun.
They like just literally went like ours, and it was so funny.
He said, what the fuck is a movie now? Sometimes that plays in theaters for a token release for there's only so many F-bombs we can get away with. 4 effing weeks. And by the second week, you can watch it on television. I didn't get into all of this for diminishing returns. I mean, it was bad enough in 97. It was bad enough in 2019. That was the last effing year of movies. What he's talking about with movies is he is posing the question, like, what is a movie now, right? A lot of people have very different definitions. I think audiences' relationships with movies have changed so dramatically.
It's a 2-screen experience now, not a 1.
What do you mean by that?
When you're watching a movie.
What's a 2-screen? Oh, you have the phone out. Yeah. That's why I moved. So I went to go watch Nosferatu in the theaters, took my wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, and my wife's name's Olivia, by the way. That's how I took Olivia.
Callback timing, on point.
And I took her, and before the movie started, it was just the trailers. It's like a giant theater. No one was there. It got me scared. Literally, like, oh, this is what people were talking about. It's the weekend, and there's like no one here. Giant theater, and we had great center seats, but everyone around us, but while the trailers were going, were so loud, like they couldn't hear themselves, and they were on their phones talking over the trailers the whole time. I'm like, I could just be like, it could just be the trailers. I'm like, but I know what it's like today.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like this.
Might be the experience.
Nosferatu. So right before the movie started, we just moved to a different section, and we went way far away from them. We just could feel that we were now the minorities.
Right.
We cannot we cannot say be quiet, because we're the ones who are quiet.
You're the one seeking the experience.
I don't mean it in an exaggerated way. We were in the center of a circle of a bunch of random people who just wouldn't shut up, and they were so loud.
Yeah.
And so we moved, and so when I'm looking at this like lack of appreciation that people have for cinema, when I'm looking at this lack of magic that you're talking about, Tarantino's question about what is a movie now is complicated. It's a complex question.
We're also at an aging demographic, which is interesting. We're also at an interesting point where we're like elder millennials, and it's an old man yells at cloud conversation to so many, but also the people that make the art are even older than us, so they're even more attached. But I think it's a single screen experience that's dying.
But I think people around us look like they're at least my age or older a lot of the time. What's Nosferatu? It's not like 18-year-old kids going on, It's not, and it's how is it like this with like people who are more than likely older than me, and this is the new norm, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it.
Socialization got fucked in the pandemic.
The whole point of not having your phone on, the whole purpose of it is to get lost in the movie, to get transported to experience, like what we've been saying, the magic of film.
Yeah.
And people are robbing themselves of that. And someone might hear me say that and go, that just sounds ridiculous. It's just a movie. And that's my point. Now things are just a movie now.
Yeah.
They're not an experience anymore.
And that's what brings me back to my point of live boldly, be grandiose, see it as magic. Because if you're spending the dollar's worth jack shit, if you're spending $20, that's a meal or two, depending on where you live in the country, why not have the best 2 hours of your life?
Yeah. No, there's so much. That's the weird part about the industry to me, especially what Tarantino's talking about, is there was a time where you used to have to wait like a year for something to come out on VHS. You had to wait forever. I remember those days of waiting like up to a year for something to come out from the theater, so you had to go to the theaters to watch it. And that's what made the theater special.
Do you know what's crazy? You just mentioned VHSs. The thing that changed the VHS system, Top Gun.
Really?
Not even kidding.
Awesome.
That was the first film that was made to be marketed at a budget that every house could have instead of video rental stores having it. It was the first film that changed the price of VHSs.
Really?
Didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought it was really ironic.
That's cool.
Just Top Gun is the theme of today. Sorry, carry on.
That's cool. No, that's really cool.
Americana,
but
man.
even when it was DVDs, you know, there was a time where you had to wait forever, and now there's such mass produced films. There's so many movies now made, which in one way is great because that means a lot more people can make the thing they wanted to make. A lot more people have opportunities. You can now, that whole thing, you can now make a movie on your iPhone, like that's a really cool thing to actually do.
Yeah.
At the same time, there used to be such a specific category for what the experience of a movie is, and now with such a quantity of films, which I said, there's a lot of great things to it, but with the quantity of it, it diminishes specialty in the experience. When you diminish specialty, it diminishes magic.
Yeah.
And the whole point of what people really want, I think, is as human beings, we crave connection. We crave connection in some way. Even if it's not to another human, we're craving it in the movie, which, by the way, stars humans. So we're connecting with the humans in the movie.
We see ourselves as blank.
Exactly. The whole, I think it was Martin Scorsese, you said it a while back, of it's the ultimate empathy experience. I could not agree more.
Yeah.
It is a massive empathy experience. And now I think as just general audiences are so aware that it's just a business now. It is just a product now. I think we're so much more aware of the fact that we're so privy to behind the scenes shit. We're so privy to all this stuff that it does take away.
That's why I don't like the Doom casting. The Doctor Doom casting is the first time I felt like it went from being what is the best person for the job to what is the most marketable decision we can make about a character I love. I consider Marvel's casting some of the best ever. I literally would not have thought of some people. Sometimes it's been like, oh, what if they get, and then they get them. No matter what, across the board, they are like 90%. They're batting 900. It's crazy. But the Doctor Doom announcement was the first time it felt like it was to get the top 15 Instagram video it did. Yeah. And that hurt. Because I love that universe, and I love Downey, and I love Doom, and that is something that I think is affecting our experience of it, is that magic feeling lost because of the business.
It is a big thing. And also the way how audiences receive movies, right? That phrase that we hear online all the time, like, keep politics out of my movies. We don't want to hear anything political anymore. And my initial thought is, haven't movies always been political in some way? They always have been. Even some of our favorite movies of all time that are overtly political. If you're doing a war movie, Hacksaw Ridge, Schindler's List, it's a political ass film.
I believe Indy fights Nazis.
Yes, yeah. There's always been a political element to things. And now we have this thing with audiences where they want to separate it.
I think it's because we're more broken. I think that we could handle it being, a little... Art is going to reflect life. Life has politics because politics is the human experience. And you're identifying with the political figure is them selling you a reality. Might or might not be true, usually isn't, but that they understand and connect to you. It's just like connecting to an actor. A politician is trying to sell you something, except they have power over life instead of power over fiction. Yeah. So therefore, if something is political, it is connection to you. And therefore, if a movie's telling a story about humans, it's going to have political elements. It can be overt, it can be subtle, but no matter what, the human experience is going to have connection to humans. The problem is, I think, not only do we have more of the behind the scenes on movies, we also have more of the behind the scenes on politics. I didn't know anything about politics until the internet was like, here's everything. It feels, every day of our life is the West Wing. We used to be able to get off the internet. The newspaper used to come on Sundays. Then it was every day. Then the news was on every day. And then all of a sudden the 24-hour news cycle made it so we couldn't escape the news. Now we can't escape the news because it literally follows us around. So I think it isn't that movies are more political. I think the world is more political, and we've reached a threshold of not being able to handle it. So we think that when we nostalgically look back at movies that feels political, we can't remember the first time we watched them if that was applied today. All we can know is that it felt nice to escape. Now nothing feels like an escape because we're living with two-screen experiences and we have no happy chemicals left.
The part about especially with the political aspect, it's weird how political, when you say political, everyone kind of knows what you mean. You mean stuff that is woke and diversity is usually the aspect, the quotation marks.
Talking to.
Depends on who you're talking to, but usually when you hear politics, we're not talking about like the economy and the movies or something, right?
Which is crazy.
You're talking about important. Talking about political, whatever the keywords are, the virtue signaling, gender identity, stuff like that is what people just don't want to hear about. Freedom, human rights, all that shit that people don't want to hear about being equal, right? And I think you have a point, because before this kind of echo chamber was happening on the internet, I think shit would just happen in movies and we wouldn't notice and we wouldn't turn it into a thing. Like
The Hunt for Red October. Like it's always been there.
Right. And when Return of the King, which I've only seen a couple of times, but Johnny, what's her name? The woman who takes off the mask and she's like, I'm no woman. I'm no man. I'm a woman or some shit. I'm no man. She said, I'm no man. That's a line. Eowyn. Eowyn takes off her mask and is like, she's like, what? The villain's like, what kind of man are you, or whatever? And she takes off her helmet, like, I'm no man, then kills him.
Yeah.
Back then, the theater just erupted in applause, and I was there as a kid going, that shit is so cool. Now you do that.
Mary Sue!
Like they're pushing their goddamn agendas down our throat.
Yeah, dude.
When it could be the exact same movie, the exact same scene.
You couldn't make a Joan of Arc movie today.
No, probably not.
She really
probably
did some stuff,
the hell
but
not.
it's a propaganda machine.
But why is that though? Like, 'cause sometimes I do get it. I get if like, Anthony Mackie wants to take a break at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier and be like, well, let me tell you about some liberal point of view. It's like, I understand. That's a bit like annoying. Totally.
I didn't love Clint Eastwood arguing with a chair. I mean, there is a line where you want to connect to the artist, not the artist's opinions.
You want it to be told through the story, but now it just seems like even if it's within the story, it's a problem for some reason.
I think it's an overflowing cup. I think we just have too many opinions and we know too much of everything.
Yeah.
So I think, and I also think that we feel on either side of the political aisle, and this is going to lose me a lot of, I'm not even ready for these comments, but
this whole podcast is going to lose us a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm so glad we're growing the channel negatively. I think that extremists on both sides, which I do believe exist on both sides, and both parties like to think there aren't extremes on their side, but I think on both sides have made it so there isn't a conversation to be had. There is only an ideological war versus an actual conversation. And I think that when you leap to an extreme on either side, it shuts off any ability to see nuance. And so when it feels as big as a movie or as big as a show, and there's something you aggressively disagree with, you lump it into the aggressive ideology instead of the nuanced one.
Because I guarantee you, this conversation, this subject is about the thing Tarantino, the question he was posing.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I could be 100% wrong. I'm saying I guarantee you, I could be completely wrong. My hunch is that if under those channels we were talking about earlier saw this quote, they'd be like, I have an answer for you what movies are. They're a bunch of woke agendas that are shoving down our like
probably some videos right now.
There's probably some videos right now. Like, that's all they're doing. And that's the problem with the industry.
And they'll get clicks.
Yeah.
That video would feed a lot of people. And I also, this is a really good point I just felt. I also think those people feel marginalized and want something to rah. I think everyone feels defeated. I think everyone feels like they're beaten down. And therefore, if there's something that they could have an oppressor at, it makes them feel like I'm doing something, I'm yelling. And I don't want anyone to feel oppressed. But when you do, you make angry content as a retaliation. And so the more you feel oppressed, and the more you find like-minded people, and the more those like-minded people start to go, I agree, this is a mob. And so I think there's also a distortion in the reality of how much we're hearing about identity politics from very loud contingents in it. Because it's a mob.
I agree. It's a really good point. I just hate the hurt that evolves from it, honestly. That's the part that really bugs me, is because the internet's a weird thing where the whole purpose, I don't know what the whole purpose is, but a big part of it is, hey, social media, a way for more people to be connected, yet people feel more disconnected than ever. So then you get these like loneliness camps, which is like, how ironic, a massive group of people who feel lonely. But don't you realize the oxymoron here? So when this happens, no one online's really getting hurt. The people who get hurt are the ones who end up becoming. The simple example is if there's a bunch of hate comments about Greg and people are defending Greg in the comments, they're not getting hurt, the defenders or something. People who have a different point of view about me are not getting hurt. I'm the one who probably is the one who stands a chance of getting hurt. So when this kind of shit's happening, it's like everyone could be like all they want or be defenders, but there are those individuals who do get hurt. And I think like, this is coming to a totally different subject about cyberbullying now and everything.
But I think it's all connected.
Yeah,
and I also think that it's really unhealthy to, and I've been guilty of it, and I'm trying to grow out of it, and I'm trying to read and learn and understand as much as I can. But I think herd mentality is so dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think that people leap to conclusions when they see something in a movie because they want to connect to it, and then they get extra offended when they're not.
Yeah.
And maybe that also ties into the Superman thing. Yeah. Maybe some of those people wanted to be like, oh my God, and instead they were like, that looks weird to me. And I didn't, because I was like, oh my God, a man's flying. Yeah. But if I didn't, I might have been upset, and that would have been a different all caps response.
Yes. You see, I think if the question is posed to me, what is a movie? I think the general thing, hear me out for a second. I think the general thing is a movie is supposed to be something that is entertaining. But what is entertaining? Something that entertaining is actually another word to me for connection. Because in order to be entertained, whether it be you're finding there's passive entertainment. That's what a TikTok video is for. That's what 90 seconds is for.
That's what content is.
Yeah, that's what a content piece is, right? Like a little thing. But if we're talking about a movie or a show or something going to be around for like more than like 20 to 30 minutes more than that, an hour, 3 hours, whatever. You want to be entertained, but to be entertained, you have to be connected. So to be connected, it has to be speaking to your heart on a personal level. So you got to tell personal stuff. Even if it's something like Superbad, which is a comedy, there's so many personal things in there that allow you to connect with the characters. Shrinking is a great comedy that we were talking about, but it's so personal. It's massively entertaining, and that's what we want. So when people want to distinguish the two of like, keep politics out of I'm not saying like go in there and start preaching politics, but it kind of comes out inherently because our world is politics. We live in politics. Everything we do is politics in some way. And then somehow we've categorized what politics is. And I'm like, but everything's politics.
That's what I was saying. Like, it's personal because it's real, and real is the world, which is political.
Yeah.
Every decision that gets made affects real people. And thus, when political decisions are made and it affects real people, the art reflects that.
I think when people are saying they just want entertainment, I'm like, I don't think you know what you mean when you say that. I don't think a lot of people actually understand, like, how you get entertained is by personally connecting to what you're watching.
I think they're just hurt by the entertainment that feels like it offends their worldview. And that's hard, because I'm sure there's lots of art that I would disagree with, but I don't tend to gravitate towards it.
Yes.
So I don't have the, platform to yell about whatever that is. I don't even know what the category would be, but people that are feeling ostracized and feeling let down. And you mentioned like the loneliness or epidemic. I do feel like there are many people that feel they aren't seen, because historically that's the case. Like, there's a period in your life, no matter how old you are, whatever part of your life you're in, there is a period where you feel like you're not seen, but we didn't used to have the internet to rage on, to share that. And then other people find other people that didn't feel seen. Yeah. And that causes this whole other undercurrent of rage and loneliness.
What a sad podcast.
Pilot episode. But you could also turn that into the connectivity it was meant to be if you find magic again.
But how do you go back to finding magic? How do you
block assholes?
Yeah, I know it's weird. Like, now to experience the magic of a movie, you have to weirdly have a discipline now.
Yeah.
In order to do it.
And I hate that. It takes work.
Yeah, exactly. That's strange. It's like it takes work to get lost again.
I go to premieres not because it's some sort of like, oh, the studio I'm promoting. I'm bad at doing the thing that I know is going to be more sensationalized, like rapid editing or all this stuff. Like, I don't enjoy that. So when I put out stuff at a premiere, it's usually like, I'm excited, and that's something I'd do if I was just going to AMC, and I do. Yeah. So when everyone gets mad at me and they're like, you just wanted to make the studio happy to go to the premiere, I'm like, I just want to go premiere because there's not people there talking. Like, the only thing I get out of it is I have to cull the experience down to the narrow field of what movies used to be. A premiere just feels like what movies used to be, unless I'm sitting next to Johnny Depp, and I'm not. Like, it's the same, but it's just the joy and the uproariousness. And there are times that we've left premieres and been like, that movie was not as good as it felt then, but that's how all movies used to feel.
I got an interesting question then, because we're gonna have two news stories in this movie news podcast. Because then we gotta go.
Second story.
But no, I got an interesting. And the Tarantino thing is the second story. What it was getting me to think about is, as we were talking, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it would appear that most of the big movies, most movies that are made, are done by people who identify as left-leaning, liberal, or something in that camp, right? There's less people making Sound of Freedom than there, So I'm like, what if? Because like when Sound of Freedom came out, I don't think the right crowd was like, keep politics out of my movies. They were like, yes, we're seeing.
That's what I'm saying. So it's your politics.
Yeah. So or that, what was that documentary, that like almost Borat-like movie that came out? The Which one?
I'm not racist.
I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Like I'm not racist. Very political.
Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ, right? So what if there were more people who were right-leaning who were just making their movies? Do you think a balance would occur? Am I racist?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you think there would be a bit more of a balance in the discussion then if there were more not? I think the problem is like take away our own political leanings. If there were more people if there were more Mel Gibsons in the world,
Kevin Sorbos and Kirk Camerons.
Yeah.
John Voight's.
Sylvester Stallone's. We accept Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Isn't Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s wife an actress? Let's see. I think that would be a less aggressive. Like, I think there would be less aggression on the left's art, but I think there'd be more aggression in general because I do feel like ideologically there's already so much conflict in real life. And I think if there were as many movies that had those things, I don't know what that would translate to box office wise or how that would be for like the average viewer. I also I don't understand politics anymore to scale. I don't understand how so many people enjoy movies that have, left-leaning political, ideas, but then vote to hurt people or not, and that's too blindly black and white. But when they vote against the people that the movies are emboldening and helping and trying to find strength in, like when you have a clear line in the sand that says, I believe in humanity, I'm seeking this out, and I want the better for people. But then you, in real life, as soon as you leave that fantasy, act in the opposite direction. I don't know how you identified with that art in the first place. I don't understand how you can go into a Superman movie wanting to hate it if you claim to like the character. The character is about belief in mankind, and you don't even believe in yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because what a lot of people don't realize that maybe there's an inverse happening here, right? Maybe it's not the fact that the movie's doing political shit. It's the fact that you have political point of views and you're letting that affect your point of view when you're watching the movie.
And it's causing something in you that you don't feel good about. So then you get mad.
Because my point is not like, hey, give more people who are right. Like, I don't imagine when I watch a Mel Gibson movie, I don't feel like I'm watching right-wing politics. You know, I haven't seen Flight Risk. Maybe it's nothing.
Maybe
but
it
that.
is. We'll find out.
Yeah.
We should react to that, dude.
I haven't seen that. Right. So I'm not saying like more right-leaning filmmakers should go in and start pushing these like agendas that you hear all the time in campaign speeches or whatever. But a natural voice does come through just because when it's politics, what's coming through are your own just personal beliefs in life, right?
What's funny is I didn't even read the Tarantino quote as political.
No, we just found our way there. Because,
Because I was like, well, that's an interesting take.
I brought myself there because I was like, well to try to figure out what are movies now.
I think it's a streaming issue more than a political issue.
I think there's a very big variable, 1,000%.
I think it's more about the format of movies than it is about anything else.
Because we talked about the quantity problem.
Also like the speed at which movies are no longer a movie and they're a bit of content.
Yeah.
I think movies in theaters are becoming content because people are on their phones and talking. I think movies at home are content because you're making dinner and you're on your phone and you're half watching.
Yeah. What's the goddamn Jurassic Park quote that people say from Jeff Goldblum all the time?
Life finds a way.
No, great pull though.
Chaos theory?
No, like what? No, the thing of like you never bother to ask whether or not you should. You focused on whether or not you could. You didn't bother to ask whether or not you should. And I feel like when you think about like the greatness of golden age of television, but then beyond that, beyond Breaking Bad and these shows that were clearly done with a reasonable budget, when you think about like Stranger Things or when Michael Bay is making Netflix movies, these giant blockbusters of like, wow, cool, we can finally bring this to television.
Yeah.
Awesome. But now, when we're watching these things that were usually intended for big screen ideas, and then you're supposed to be off your phone and focus and absorbed in it, and now you're on your phone cooking dinner, all the things you're saying, now it's affected the way you choose to view things, and now you've robbed yourself from it. So yes, I would agree full-heartedly that is a massive problem.
And audience's expectation. If you look at something like Red One, no one saw Red One in theaters. I liked Red One. And then Red One came to streaming and broke tons of records because it was made for that format to people that were like, I can just wait 2 weeks.
Yeah. And also I also don't think we appreciate the value of a movie growing and now, but a lot of movies don't also have that ability.
If it doesn't do well day one, it's dead.
Yes. And there was a time where I think a lot of Martin Scorsese films were not big hits, but then they became appreciated over time. I don't really know of movies that get made nowadays that have that because they're going to get lost in just a giant shuffle of a billion other movies that are coming out.
And you forget stuff because our attention spans are also garbage.
Exactly, because movies are now also competing with content.
Right.
You know?
And our programming's broken. We can't remember 3 months ago. How are we going to remember them? Like we're also breaking, which I think is its own formatting
So we
issue.
don't have an answer, Tarantino. We just know there's a lot of goddamn problems with the movie industry.
I think the variables are many, but I think the biggest one for me is a sense of immersion that we are sacrificing ourselves.
I know what exactly. I know what I would want with watching a movie, but even I've robbed myself. But the thing is, I'm talking about this. I'm like, but I'm a participant. I'm absolutely a participant in all these things.
I'm trying to remove my phone from as much of my life as possible. I've set up an area where I put it outside the bedroom so I don't bring it in the bedroom. I'm trying to put my phone away when I'm watching a movie. I think it's I think we'll look at cell phones like we look at cigarettes in the 90s as how did we let that go so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you think about everyone with these focus problems and everyone getting diagnosed with ADHD and ADD now. It's like, well, everyone thinks they're a massive multitasker now, you know? And like, yeah, because that's the thing is you are multitasking
at all times.
You might not think you're doing a task when you're on your phone watching a movie, but you are technically causing your brain to multitask and not be able to. You're losing the muscle to focus on one thing.
The other day I was driving and I was aware that I wanted to text and I had no one. It wasn't an emergency. I just was like, oh, I should reach out to this person now. While I was driving, I didn't, but it scared the crap out of me that the act of driving wasn't enough stimuli when it should be. That's so much going on. You're doing so many things. Those radios on. I should never be like, now is a free moment. And that means if that much is going on and my brain is like, we need to add another thing. What's it doing when I'm sitting idly watching a movie that would have immersed me before? We're robbing ourselves of happiness.
The last thing I'll say is I do believe that if we invent teleportation, we will just become busier.
Oh, I don't think
That is my personal belief.
I think AI is proof that we will never have a universal basic income or any sort of society that isn't based on doing more. Because we could be doing less with technology we've invented the last 20 years. We're doing more.
Every time something is invented that is supposed to create speed, create efficiency, it just means, great, you could fill more things in your time.
Be more productive.
Fill your time up. Be more productive.
I'm way busier now than I was 10 years ago, and I shouldn't be with how much technology makes things easier.
One should.
No one
should.
But I can only speak to my experience. Like, I don't have free time. I should.
Yeah, if we were teleporting, it's like, then you can never be late.
You never be late. Jobs could be everywhere.
You have no excuse.
Every interview could be,
I used to want that to be my superpower, but I'm like, oh man, but if we all had that access, I mean, if I have it as an individual and no one else does, incredible. If the world has it as a technology thing, then oh my God, we're doomed. Anyway,
the other bit of the quote I do want to give some love to is how much he loves his kids. I really thought it was special that
boring. We're doing a show.
No. The idea that Quentin Tarantino, known for being a guy with explosive and blood, and like he's such a violent like filmmaker. I love that he was like, I want my kids to remember me making my last movie if that's the case. And I thought that was like a very good human experience for someone that I don't think ever comes across human. Tarantino's interviews and all of his mania and his movies, I'm never like, that guy's probably a chill dad.
Johnny, can you? Okay, I know Coy does have to go, but this, as I've heard him talk about his kid before, and I love hearing him talk about it. Can you look up when his child was born and when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was released? Because he's really taking a long time on his next movie because he is really making it clear it's going to be his last. So he's doing other shit in between. I think in the article he talks about like doing a play. Yeah. So what and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of his more like patient, reflective movies.
I love that movie
where it is calling on his childhood nostalgia for what he had as a kid. So I'm really curious what his last movie is going to be now that he has a kid.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure maybe he's not going to write a thing about like, here's what fatherhood is.
But like Kevin Smith got so sentimental.
But it'll bleed through in some way. What you're going through in personal life with your own personal beliefs and stuff, it's going to come through in some version. And so Tarantino as a father is a very unique prospect to me.
Yeah, especially how he speaks.
He's been the cool geek dude who doesn't shut up. So it would be like really cool to see like, wow, what is the Tarantino dad script going to look like?
Yeah, and like that passion. Because his passion seemed only filmmaking, but now a passion for kids and filmmaking? That's cool.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was released July 26th.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was released July 26, 2018? 2019?
And then
This kid was definitely born after that.
Tarantino's son born February 22nd, 2020, daughter born July 6th,
Okay.
2022.
So his children were born before he wrote Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I'm like, wow, what is he? I mean, after he wrote Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
We haven't seen Dad Tarantino.
I know, Dadatino. I can't
That's
wait.
cool.
I can't wait. That's going to be cool, man.
Yeah, that's actually
Or it's
really
going to
exciting.
be him trying to recapture his youth before he was a dad.
Yeah, it could be an existential crisis or a great movie.
Oh my God, he's worried about being old. All right.
It's a remake of all of his other movies where he's like, let me have my past glory. No, I think Tarantino is very plugged into himself. I'm really curious what that looks like now that he has externalized that into like having little Tarantinos.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, well, did you enjoy this talk?
This was fun, man. This is what I hoped it would be.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. A little worried about the beginning, but who cares?
Editing.
Nope.
We're doing it wrong.
That's the problem we get.
Well, if people made it here, they can tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us in the comments what you thought.
I think what we just want to demonstrate is, we're people progressing and learning all the time.
Trying.
That we care to have a discussion, and some stuff we might say might be a strong opinion, but that doesn't mean we're not open to changing an opinion.
I think that's what opinion should be malleable, and
Yeah.
I think value should be pretty strong. I think value should be a pen, and opinion should be in pencil.
Yeah, I think people often skew what is a conviction and what is an opinion.
Yeah. I'm
Oh my
trying
God,
to
I
learn.
love that. I rarely say a smart thing. I think that's a smart thing. It's why you say like so many things just out of your ass all the time, or people are like, wow, let me put this in the comments. I never say something.
That was smart. I disagree. I would not be able to do this. Like, I would not be able to monologue this.
No, I mean, I'm saying there's a lot of things that you say where people are like, whoa, cool, koi quote. Damn, I got to put that down.
But if you weren't smart, this would be boring for me. You know how many people bore me?
Thanks. My goal was to for
No,
me,
but like-
record
Like I said, a dialogue, Greg. A dialogue is the way of value to have a conversation. I wouldn't want to do a show where we sit down for an hour if you were not smart.
Thank you.
Like, that'd be so awful.
Finally, I was. Where's
There's the validation
Where's
Greg
been
is
waiting
clearly-
years to hear?
No, but like-
thinks Greg's smart.
Have you tried talking to people for an hour that are not on par with your intelligence? It is not worth anyone's time. So I appreciate your intelligence. I think you're a smart person.
I usually find. I guess it depends. I usually just love hearing people's backstories. Is usually when I'm really talking. I mean, having a discussion like this.
Yeah,
yes,
this-
I understand. But if we're talking just like
If we
life with
didn't
the
know each other-
then I would just rely on I want to know your past.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we can ask someone about them, and it's very interesting how they got here, but I wouldn't care about your opinion about Superman. Sean.
Yeah. Sometimes you do feel like when you're talking with people, like, God damn, I'm just hearing the same shit I hear on the internet all the time.
Yeah.
And it does get annoying. Because people, we were in this business, so people will come up to us, fans or followers, subscribers, whatever the new word is, right? They will come up to us and they will ask us like, hey, what do you think about this? And they tell us their opinion.
Yeah.
Sometimes without us prompting.
Sure.
And that they do. And a lot of times it is like, I'm back in the comment boxes here. And,
But you know what's great?
Yeah.
I realized like a couple
But
cons
most people
ago.
who come up to us are really kind.
Oh,
I gotta say that.
I 100% agree. But I realized like a few cons ago, that's kind of like going to a concert and just wanting to hear the hits.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's what we bring people. So I love when, like, I used to be like, I can't always talk about Spider-Man, Deadpool, Superman, and Batman. But then I realized, like, if I meet a stand-up comedian and I hear something akin to their big joke, I'm like, whoo, like, it's the same. So I really like that we are leaving an impression on people to the point they want us to play the hits. Means we got hits.
Yeah, we got hits. We got hits.
We got hits.
Thanks, Johnny, for setting this all up.
John worked tirelessly for an hour and 45 minutes before we could even roll.
Actually, it's
and I don't
longer
even
than
know.
that.
Yeah, and I don't even know
No,
before I got here.
yeah.
So the unspoken hero of this entire thing. If you enjoyed this at all, it's because of John.
It's because of John and also Multi-House. Thank you so much for letting us be here at the Preserve. We're going to be
Meanwhile,
oh my God, how do we not mention it? Holy crap, put it at the beginning. MultiCon.
MultiCon!
There's an event. We're going to have to put this at the beginning.
Where you can meet us and talk about the hits.
The real rejects are going to be there. Greg, me hosting. I'm looking at all the cameras. Greg's hosting a panel. I don't know which one it is. And then Koi's hosting a panel. And the real rejects are going to have a panel now.
Oh.
And there's also going to be a whole bunch of people way more popular than us, like the likes of Kevin Smith.
Yes,
David the
Seth
Smulchian.
Green.
Straw Hat Goofy.
True.
Juju. There's going to be a lot of people there. All of the everything, this entire thing is a big fundraiser to go towards victims of the wildfires here in LA. It's a cause that we are so happy to be a part because 100% of proceeds are going to be going to them. And on top of that, we get to connect with people and entertain as a way to be able to do something really good that we actually really give a shit about.
Yeah, I'm really excited to meet people for a great cause.
Yeah, so it's February 22nd.
Yep.
Here at the Preserve in LA. There's a link in the description box and pinned comment. And then now we'll just throw you into the podcast.
Yeah, good luck. It's chaotic.